Somewhere between your bedroom and kitchen, your brain could be experiencing a silent stroke precursor, and you wouldn't even notice. This is happening to 8 out of 10 seniors every single morning, yet hardly anyone talks about it. Tomorrow morning, you could make a simple change that might protect your brain and reduce your risk dramatically. I'm Dr. Bill Harrison, a neurologist and stroke specialist, and what I'm about to share may surprise you. The habits you think are harmless or even healthy might actually be quietly setting your brain up for failure in the hours after waking. While you brush your teeth, make coffee, or glance at your phone, inside your body your blood pressure spikes, your arteries stiffen, and your brain struggles to get the oxygen it needs. The first hour of your day holds the key to whether your brain thrives or suffers, and most people don't realize it. This isn't theoretical. 3 weeks ago, a patient named Margaret came into my ER around 8:30 a.m. She was 67, a retired teacher, did yoga 3 times a week, took her medications as prescribed, and looked like a model of good health. That morning, though, she collapsed while making breakfast. Her husband found her on the kitchen floor, confused, slurring her speech, and unable to lift her right arm. By the time the ambulance arrived, most of her symptoms had resolved, but I immediately recognized what had happened. Margaret had experienced a transient ischemic attack, or TIA, a so-called mini-stroke. When I walked her through her usual morning routine, I discovered something that alarmed me even more. Every step of her morning, from the moment she opened her eyes, was filled with hidden traps for her brain. And the truth is, most seniors are following routines just like Margaret's, unknowingly increasing their stroke risk day after day. Margaret's story changed how I think about mornings entirely. The problem isn't just what happened that one day in her kitchen. It's the reality that the first hour after waking is the most dangerous time for your brain. Research from the American Heart Association in 2023 confirmed that stroke risk peaks between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m., with the highest number of strokes occurring in the first 2 hours after waking. Why? Because your body is making a huge physiological adjustment after sleep. At night, your blood pressure naturally falls, your heart rate slows, and your blood becomes slightly thicker. When you wake, your system suddenly needs to jump into high gear. Your circulation ramps up, your oxygen demands increase, and your brain's blood vessels need to expand quickly to keep up. But in people over 60, the blood vessels don't adjust as easily. Stiffened arteries, dehydration from overnight fasting, and reduced flexibility in circulation all combine to create a fragile situation. When certain morning habits compound these stresses, the result can be devastating. Margaret's very first mistake was bolting out of bed as soon as her alarm rang. She prided herself on not wasting time, but this abrupt shift from lying flat to standing put immediate stress on her circulation. Blood pressure can drop dramatically during that first transition, a condition called orthostatic hypotension, and for the first 10 to 15 seconds, her brain wasn't getting enough oxygen. That head rush or brief dizziness many people feel upon standing isn't harmless. It's a warning signal from your brain. The fix is simple. I taught Margaret what I call the 90-second rule. Upon waking, she now takes 10 seconds to breathe deeply, 20 seconds to gently flex her ankles and hands to encourage circulation, 20 seconds to slowly sit up and pause, and 40 seconds with her feet flat on the floor before standing. That one change eliminated the morning dizziness she had accepted as just aging, but was really her brain struggling for oxygen. Her next mistake? Heading straight for coffee, skipping water. After 8 hours of sleep, your body is mildly dehydrated, your blood is thicker, and circulation is sluggish. Adding caffeine, which constricts blood vessels, before hydrating worsens this. I recommended that Margaret, and all my patients, drink a glass of room-temperature water immediately upon waking, ideally with a pinch of sea salt or a splash of lemon for better absorption, before their first sip of coffee. The next trap in Margaret's routine was her healthy breakfast. She ate instant oatmeal and whole grain toast, believing she was starting her day right. What she didn't realize was the sodium hidden in processed breakfast foods, instant oatmeal packets, many healthy breads. Even deli turkey can add up to 400 to 600 milligrams of sodium before 9 a.m., quietly pushing up blood pressure and straining delicate brain vessels. We replaced her instant oatmeal with plain rolled oats topped with berries and nuts, reducing her morning sodium intake and lowering her morning blood pressure by 20 points. Margaret also drank 2 mugs of black coffee on an empty stomach each morning, which was triggering a 30 to 60% adrenaline surge and narrowing her arteries at precisely the wrong time. I taught her to eat a small buffer first, half a banana, a few almonds, or a boiled egg, before coffee. Just this small food buffer reduces the adrenaline surge and protects circulation. Another deeply concerning habit Margaret had was brushing off mild speech glitches and numb fingers in the morning as, quote, grogginess. But those are classic signs of transient ischemic attacks, the brain's red flag rehearsal for a full stroke. These warning episodes often resolve quickly, but they indicate that a major stroke could occur within hours or days. Any slurring of speech, one-sided weakness, or facial drooping, even if temporary, demands immediate medical attention. Margaret didn't realize these fleeting symptoms were her brain begging for help. Her next mistake was taking all of her morning medications together, and sometimes with coffee. She was combining her blood pressure meds, thyroid pill, and aspirin with caffeine, which alters absorption and can cause unpredictable spikes or drops in blood pressure. Medications must be taken carefully. Some require food, others an empty stomach, and caffeine can interfere with absorption. We worked out a schedule to space her pills properly, and her blood pressure readings became much more stable. Finally, Margaret delayed her first bathroom trip of the day, staying in bed, scrolling her phone even when she felt the urge to urinate. Holding a full bladder increases internal pressure and stimulates a stress response that raises heart rate and blood pressure. I told her to prioritize going to the bathroom within 5 minutes of waking, no more delays. These 7 habits combined into a perfect storm. If you're reading this and wondering if your mornings are putting your brain at risk, ask yourself if you experience any of these: a head rush when standing, racing heart after coffee, elevated morning blood pressure, brief slurring or weakness that clears up quickly, or pounding heart after finally getting up to use the bathroom. If 2 or more sound familiar, your brain is raising a yellow flag. The good news is that small, practical changes can dramatically reduce your risk. Here's what I advise all of my patients over 60 to do. The night before, prepare your counter with a glass of water, your medications arranged properly, and healthy low-sodium breakfast options. When you wake, follow the 90-second sequence before standing. Immediately drink water first, have a small snack, then enjoy coffee after hydrating and buffering. Log your morning blood pressure and note any unusual symptoms like dizziness, speech changes, or weakness, even if they resolve quickly. Finally, educate a family member or friend about stroke warning signs. They may notice changes in you before you recognize them yourself, and that awareness could save your life. Margaret's story has a happy ending. 6 months after changing her morning routine, she hasn't had a single neurological episode. In fact, she says she feels sharper and steadier than she has in years. The fog is gone, the dizziness is gone, and she's regained confidence in her body and mind. That's what I want for everyone reading this. Stroke prevention isn't about perfection. It's about understanding how daily choices, especially in that first hour after waking, impact your brain health over time. You have more control than you realize, and your morning routine is the best place to start. If this resonates with you and you want to take action, choose one habit to change tomorrow. Commit to it and let a friend or family member know so they can support you and protect their own health too. Every single morning, while most seniors are just starting their day with what seem like normal, harmless routines, something dangerous could be quietly happening inside their bodies without their knowledge. Imagine this. Somewhere between waking up and walking into the kitchen, your brain could experience what experts call a silent stroke precursor, and you might never realize it until it's too late. This phenomenon is affecting 8 out of 10 seniors, and yet it flies completely under the radar because it's hidden behind habits most people believe are good for them. I'm Dr. Bill Harrison, neurologist and stroke specialist, and I want to tell you something that might shock you. The activities many people over 60 do every single morning, even things they think are healthy, may be silently increasing their stroke risk. The first hour after waking is the most vulnerable time for your brain, and the choices you make during that critical window could either protect or endanger your future. Let me share a story that illustrates exactly what I mean. About 3 weeks ago, Margaret, a 67-year-old retired teacher who exercises regularly and follows all of her doctor's recommendations, was rushed into my emergency room at 8:30 a.m. That morning, she had collapsed in her kitchen while making breakfast. By the time paramedics arrived, most of her symptoms had resolved. Her speech was clearer, her strength had returned, and she seemed almost back to normal. But as soon as I examined her, I knew what had happened. Margaret had suffered a transient ischemic attack, or TIA, a mini-stroke. And when I asked her to walk me through her usual morning routine, I realized something startling. Margaret was doing exactly what millions of older adults do every day, following 7 common habits that seem harmless, but quietly put strain on her brain's delicate blood supply at the worst possible time. When we made a few simple changes to her morning habits, Margaret not only avoided another TIA, but felt better and steadier than she had in years. This wasn't an isolated case. Research confirms that the first 2 hours after waking up are when stroke risk peaks, particularly between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. The American Heart Association published data showing that this is when your body is under the most strain. Overnight, your blood pressure falls, your heart rate slows, and your blood becomes slightly thicker. But the moment you wake, your body must quickly adjust to the demands of consciousness, circulation ramps up, and your brain requires more oxygen immediately. For seniors whose arteries have lost flexibility and whose circulation is already more fragile, this shift can overwhelm the system. The morning habits most people take for granted can amplify this danger dramatically. One of the first things Margaret did every morning was jump straight out of bed as soon as her alarm went off. She thought she was being efficient by not wasting time, but in reality, this abrupt movement triggered a sudden drop in her blood pressure, a condition called orthostatic hypotension. For 10 to 15 seconds, Margaret's brain wasn't getting enough oxygen, which made her dizzy and unsteady. Many seniors know this sensation as a head rush, but they don't realize it's a warning sign from the brain itself. The solution I gave Margaret was simple, but effective. Take about 90 seconds before getting out of bed. Breathe deeply for 10 seconds. Gently flex the ankles and wrists for about 20 seconds to get the blood flowing. Then slowly sit up and let her feet rest on the floor for another 40 seconds before standing. This gave her body time to adjust and eliminated the dizziness she had thought was just a normal part of aging. After standing up, Margaret's next move was heading straight for her coffee. Like many people, she enjoyed a strong cup first thing, but she didn't know that after a night of sleep, her body was already slightly dehydrated. This mild dehydration made her blood thicker and harder to circulate, and caffeine's effect of constricting blood vessels only made matters worse. I asked her to add one simple step to her morning: drink a full glass of room-temperature water before reaching for the coffee. Adding a pinch of sea salt or a squeeze of lemon helps the body absorb water more efficiently. This small adjustment made an immediate difference and reduced the strain on her circulation during that vulnerable morning window. Even Margaret's healthy breakfast was problematic. She often ate instant oatmeal and whole grain toast, believing she was making a smart choice. What she didn't realize is that many convenience breakfast foods contain hidden sodium, which stiffens arteries and increases blood pressure just as her body was trying to stabilize. By switching from flavored instant oatmeal to plain rolled oats topped with fruit and nuts, she dramatically reduced her sodium intake and saw her blood pressure readings improve within days. Then there was her coffee routine. Margaret drank 2 large mugs of black coffee before eating anything else. This caused a significant adrenaline surge, sometimes raising her stress hormones by 30 to 60%, and made her arteries constrict even more. I advised her to eat a small snack before her first coffee. A handful of almonds, half a banana, or a hard-boiled egg was enough to buffer the impact on her circulation. She still enjoyed her coffee, but without the morning jitters and arterial stress that had quietly increased her stroke risk. Another problem Margaret admitted to was brushing off mild speech difficulties or numb fingers in the morning, as nothing more than grogginess. But these temporary symptoms are classic warning signs of transient ischemic attacks, brief episodes that often precede a major stroke. Any speech slurring, numbness, or weakness that resolves quickly is still a medical emergency. The rule is simple. If you experience face drooping, arm weakness, or speech difficulty, even for a few minutes, call 911 right away. Margaret learned to take these signs seriously, and that awareness could have saved her life. Margaret also had a habit of taking all of her morning medications at once, sometimes even with her coffee. This included blood pressure pills, thyroid medication, and aspirin. But certain medications must be taken on an empty stomach, some with food, and caffeine can interfere with absorption or magnify side effects. We reviewed her medications together and spaced them appropriately, reducing fluctuations in her blood pressure and helping her medications work as intended. One final issue we discovered was that Margaret stayed in bed scrolling on her phone even when she felt the urge to use the bathroom. Holding a full bladder raises blood pressure and stimulates a stress response that can increase strain on the heart and arteries. I encouraged her to use the bathroom promptly upon waking to avoid this unnecessary pressure. If you recognize yourself in Margaret's story, it's worth doing a quick self-check. Ask yourself, do you experience a head rush when standing in the morning? Does your heart race after your first coffee? Is your morning blood pressure high? Have you ever felt temporary weakness, numbness, or slurred speech that resolved quickly? Do you feel your heart pounding after delaying your first bathroom trip? If you answer yes to 2 or more, your morning habits could be silently harming your brain. The good news is you can change this starting tomorrow. Prepare everything you need the night before so you don't have to think in the morning. Follow the 90-second progression before standing. Drink water first thing, have a small bite to eat, then enjoy your coffee. Reduce sodium in your first meal. Space out your medications appropriately. Log your blood pressure for a week so you can understand your patterns. And most importantly, educate a friend or family member about stroke warning signs. They may save your life someday. 6 months after adopting these changes, Margaret told me she wakes up feeling sharper, clearer, and more energized than she has in years. Her dizziness disappeared. Her blood pressure stabilized. And best of all, she regained confidence in her mornings, no longer fearing the unknown risks lurking in her routine. Remember, stroke prevention isn't about perfection. It's about understanding that your daily choices, especially during that first hour after waking, matter deeply. You have more control than you might think. Every decision you make when you open your eyes is either protecting your brain or putting it at risk. Take ownership starting tomorrow morning. Even one small change can make a profound difference over time. If you found this valuable and think it could help someone else you care about, share it. Encourage your loved ones to pay attention to their morning routines. It could be the simplest and most powerful way to protect their independence, memory, and quality of life.